Cheers, you guys. Hey.
Hey,
Cheers, everyone. Welcome to
Creative Happy Hour
where we get drunk
on the creative possibilities
every week with our creative biatches. So this week we are talking about kind of a major subject that I think is going to be affecting a bunch of you probably in the coming weeks, which is going back to work, like post-COVID, back to not normalcy, but back to this whole new world of post-COVID work. And some of you are probably not going back to work, but we're going to discuss like, how do you maintain the balance that we've sought so hard to create with COVID, with being quarantined? How do you keep your creative habits that you maybe put into place? And how do you keep from going crazy as you go back, right? I mean, is there anything I forgot about our subjects of what we're doing this week?
No, I mean, how do you hold on to those habits and use some of the things that you created during this shelter in place and quarantine, and how are you going to use that to go into your new post-COVID life as we know it?
100%. I think it's a really good subject. What are you drinking, my dear?
I am drinking, as usual, a gin and tonic because I have to finish this bottle because I can't keep
it around
at this level when I go back to work, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I mixed it with a grapefruit.
Ooh, I like
a grapefruit bubbly with lemon.
Love it.
Yeah.
Looks very, very refreshing. It is hot as balls today.
It is
Northern
really
California. We don't usually get this kind of heat this early in the year. So we're like, yay, in addition to COVID, we're probably going to have an awesome fire season. That's what I'm guessing that we're going to have. You know, we're going to have the killer wasps, murder hornets. Is that what we have?
And yeah, we're kind of living in the end of times, kind of biblical kind of shit going down.
Oh, and did you hear the cicadas are coming back after 17 years? Those come back. So not only are we quarantining half the time, we have to hear like the whole summer.
So I was in Cincinnati, God, I don't know, 10 or more years ago, probably more than
17, because that's their little
17 years ago. And these fuckers came back. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was visiting, and I remember going downtown to it was like a German food festival because Cincinnati has a big German community. And we're driving on the freeway, and the cicadas were so loud that it sounded like some kind of like space machine.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's wild.
And then I remember just being downtown at this festival, and these giant cicadas would like land on your shirt like a fucking bug pen.
And they hold on to you like
they were enormous. It was So the cicadas coming. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, and you walk around and it's crunchy on the ground. It is so disgusting. I'm like, wow, wow.
So I didn't know that they came here too.
We're not going to have as many as anybody else, but like apparently Virginia, good, I'm not there. Virginia and North Carolina are going to be like ground zero for these fuckers. It's going to be horrible. So I'm kind of glad I'm not on the East Coast right now. I have to say, I'm like, great. But yeah, I was like, yay, more biblical plagues coming our way. It's awesome.
Stay tuned for biblical fucking shit.
Right. So I'm drinking something different than Micah this week because
I've never had that.
I know. Since we don't get together for our real happy hours, we're like out of sync with our drinks. I am having a White Claw hard seltzer in natural lime flavor. I think this might be my favorite flavor.
Oh.
I don't love it. I'm not going to be like, I'm not plugging White Claw. A lot of people love it, so that's fine.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm doing this is because I'm really thirsty and that I'm still on the keto diet since there aren't any restaurants open still. Even the ones that are pretending they're open, they're not open. So I'm like, I might as well be on keto until that's resolved.
Yeah.
But so not only are Mike and I drinking two very different drinks, well, not that, I mean, refreshing and bubbly, but citrusy. Whatever. Yeah. But we have different situations because you, Micah, are going back to work and I am, usually a work from home, and I'm going to keep my husband working from home for the foreseeable future. So this is like the great divide when it comes to back to life after COVID. Some of us, our lives have changed maybe more than others, but I think so. Describe what's going to be different when you go back to work.
Well, I mean, I think our viewers know I work in a dental office. So I work, seeing patients as a dental assistant. And it's, yeah, I mean, it's really up close and personal. So everything about what I do is really going to, I mean, dentistry is one of those things that we've already had, we already have universal precautions. We wore masks, we wore, goggles or protective glasses or shields. We've
Mhm.
always worn those. We wear gloves, we wear lab coats. I mean, we've already kind of more so than even nurses and doctors that aren't doing surgery, we
Right.
wear protective equipment. So we're kind of ready for that. But there's going to be another level of that. We're going to have to
Oh yeah.
wear disposable gowns. We're going to have to wear things on our heads. We're going to have to wear shields. We have to get fitted for N95 masks. We have to get a medical clearance that we don't have any kind of lung issues prior to starting. I mean, so we're going to have to there's a whole screening process for patients. It's not going to be our usual, like, I used to work almost like, I always felt like I was like a waitress in a busy diner that
Mhm.
wore masks and gloves, like I never felt like, it was kind of fast paced and fun and everything. But now it's going to be very, very kind of serious how
Yeah.
we
I,
interact and
I,
social distancing
yeah.
and all of that.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting how you were talking about how fast paced it was before and how
Mhm.
that's going to change. And I think that's something that's going to happen to anybody who's going back to their workplace. I think
Yeah.
there's going to be a change of pace, literally, where I
Yeah.
think that it's going to go to something that's a little bit more intentional and a little bit slower paced.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a good thing because I think transitioning
Yeah.
from this home life where we were at our own pace, if we had to go back to rush, 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 like all of a sudden, I think we'd have a major issue with it. So I think that going back and having that slower pace, more intentional, more careful kind of thing, I think that we should probably savor that, don't you think?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I'm happy that we're doing that because it's being done in a very thoughtful, protective of our patients, protective of our staff. It's really kind of like upping the ante on patient care, and
Yeah.
it's just a whole new level. But yeah, I'm kind of feeling like, you know, this yeah, I'm already starting to kind of mourn my creative little
Yeah.
cocoon that I've been living in, where I'm hiking and I'm coming up with ideas, and I'm having time to knit and crochet and, just paint. There's all these things that I love to do, and I'm feeling like, oh, they're really, I don't want to lose
Yeah.
that
Well,
connection
yeah.
and get caught up in this world of, other people's time.
Totally. And I think that that's a really valid fear. And I was thinking about how to avoid that. And it's funny because you and I are in totally opposite situations because our listeners may know that during the quarantine time, I took advantage of, the intensity of being at home and everything to finish my book, publish my book, finish the course, publish that. So I've been push, push, push. Like
You've been working your ass off.
I've been working my ass off and I mean, I've been creating, but have I been as creative as usual? I don't believe so. I mean, other than doing editing on this podcast and, I started reading again a little bit because I'd even had an issue, like a time where I had to stop reading because I didn't have time because I was working on all this stuff. So for me, like the back to work thing, because I'm going into a period where I'm promoting what I did. So I'm going into the marketing time. So I'm going to be able to be a little bit more creative now that things are kind of opening up a little bit. But I have to be really careful, just like you, I have to be really careful that, okay, this kind of balance or this kind of work ethic, like, so you had the creative ethic that you created. I had the work ethic that I was really working on. We need
Yeah.
to take a little piece of that with us into this next phase because we can't just forget, we have to focus on the fact, like, what were the things that we learned about ourselves in this quarantine? What are the habits that we adopted that were good for what we do and that, were helpful? I think we need
Yeah.
to keep that in mind big time. And I think that we're in a new time where you were talking about communicating with patients and kind of communicating with people within your workplace. I think we're going to move into a time where people are a little bit more focused on the well-being of people in the workplace and on psychological well-being in general of the people who around you, and we're kind of like a little bit more empathetic, where we're going to be caring about how people are feeling about being back, how people are feeling walking into your office, how people are feeling, changing their focus after
Yeah.
this much time.
Yeah, and that being said, I'm also in this mindset of, because I feel like my exposure level will go up and, in kind of an intense way, even though, we're doing screenings, we're putting all these protective things. I
Mhm.
don't feel necessarily afraid, but I definitely feel like um just wanting to be more proprietary about my time away,
Yeah,
not feeling like I used to be just, and also having a positive attitude about that. Like, I want to go back and be really solutions oriented and
mhm,
positive thinking and creative about, like, okay, we can do this even though
yeah,
it's challenging, and even though people are feeling weird and uncertain, and
yeah,
things are uncertain, and they pretty much always have been, and the fact that we didn't think that they were is an illusion.
yeah.
uh, it just, it's an opportunity for us to kind of bring our best selves forward, I
Yeah, I
think.
think we can usher in a new era of communication and a new era of trying to create balance. Like, because I think that we realize, when we kind of everything just stopped, right? And all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, why was I rushing around like that before?
Mhm.
Like, I mean, even though I was being a little bit of a workaholic during this whole period, I realized that I run myself ragged a lot.
Yeah.
And, when you're trying to multitask and do all these things, like, you need to, I mean, you can't multitask, but you can kind of do one task and then another task
Yeah.
and another task. But I think it's important that, for example, for you, you're going to go to work. When you come back from work, like, you can't let them take over and be like, oh, you're going to be at work making up for lost time. I think that the making up for lost time thing is going to be a really dangerous idea. You're going to have to protect your sanity, protect your health, protect everything by being like, hey, you know what? I've got my kid at home. I need to go home. I need to work on my creative projects. I need to make time for balance in my life still, because you can't
Yeah.
just go from, completely, on your
Well, I
own
used
time
to,
to doing somebody
yeah,
else's.
I mean, you saw how, I would sometimes be at the office for 10 hours, or,
Right.
just crazy
Exactly.
amounts of time that I would spend, at work. And there's a reason that there's part of me that gets a lot of my self-esteem from working, being that
Yeah.
person that you can count on. I also, you know, I also support myself and my daughter. So financially, I was always feeling like I've always been kind of in this scarcity mindset. And it's
Mhm.
interesting that when there was true scarcity, I really realized that that is not necessarily true.
Yeah.
That there is, I do have things in place, and I have created circumstances to be able to take care of myself and my daughter, and that I don't want to go back into a scarcity mindset. I don't want to feel
Oh,
like I have to work 10 hours a day, or I have to work nonstop just to make ends meet, or work two jobs. And I'm just realizing that my time, either on the mountain hiking in the wildflowers, or sitting on my patio reading a book, or spending time with my daughter, or just even like cooking food,
mhm.
is so precious. And I don't want to immediately go back into this space and this scarcity mindset where I'm
Right.
running around and
Yeah.
trying to conjure up all this,
Mhm.
sanity. I want to be more thoughtful
Yeah.
and
I think that that's gonna be major, and I think that a lot of employers actually are seeing that as well.
yeah,
And what's funny is, so my husband works in a pretty, what I would call, a non-creative environment, in financial services, and they have had kind of a word from above, like, management is finding the need to really check in with employees and really be like, how are you feeling? How are you faring? What are you doing on the weekends? Like, all these things that before you weren't expected to have a life. Like you were not expected to be having fun on the weekend or after work.
Yeah.
You weren't expected to take care of yourself as long as you were just, perform, perform, perform. And
Yeah.
I think it's super interesting where now they're priding themselves on being people oriented and all that. And I think that we need to, those of us who are going back to the physical work environment, like we need to take advantage of that new kind of awareness of, hey, your workers are people and, they have a life outside of work and you need to protect that life and you need to protect their sanity and you need to be mindful of what they're giving up to be there, especially putting themselves in, the line of potential danger, which any workplace can be. And I think that that's something that's super, super important. And then in terms
Well,
of our creativity, like I think that we need to, yeah, just remember what that's like and take that with us to work, take those approaches with us and use them.
well, I agree with you. And I was just listening to Ryan Holiday's the Daily Stoic. I listen to the podcast. I don't always listen to it because sometimes it's a little too rigid for me. But
Mhm.
I do follow Stoic philosophy, and I probably would consider myself Stoic. But one of the things he was talking to this Coach Buzz, or I don't remember his name is, but anyway, he was kind of talking about how he's a college basketball coach and how he's been realizing in the past 2 months, as he's like waking his daughter up every day to do training with her, and she's 18, she's supposedly going to go off to college, if all that resumes, but
Who knows?
and he was like, I just realized like how much time like I invested in other people's kids and I wasn't spending the time investing in my own kids. And then Ryan Holiday was talking about like, yeah, here I am. Like, I was always under this impression, like, I'm a writer, you can't interrupt my writing. And he was like, and now that we're in this shelter in place, he was like, my 10-month-old son will only nap if I in a stroller or in the car seat. So he's like, I find I'm taking him on long walks and long runs. And he's like, and during that time, when I get back, I have to run in and write down all my ideas immediately because I have
Yeah.
so many creative ideas.
Mhm.
And he's like, before I was in this mindset that like, I can't be involved in like the nap time or the childcare or the
Mhm.
this or that because this interrupts my creative work time.
Oh, yeah.
When really the new game, like approach is maybe that's exactly what I do need to be doing
Yeah.
in order to have a different access to my creative ideas.
Right. And I think that that's maybe like the good part. Cause I mean, for me, same thing as a writer, I do tell other writers, cause so many writers, the writers who are on the various groups on Facebook or whatever, you'll see them going, oh, if you don't write every day, you're not a writer. If you don't write X number of hours a day, or if you don't write X amount of stuff a day. And I'll tell my writers, hey, you know what? Just do something to move your writing career forward every
Yeah,
day. However, don't give up your kid's birthday party because you didn't get your word count in today. I mean, that's stupid. It's
right.
bullshit. And I think that, bringing that thought, that thinking to work, thinking instead of thinking my going back to work is going to completely sabotage my creative projects, think rather that that's like the going for a run or putting your kid down. That's another part of your life that enriches some of your creative stuff. I mean, now we're going to be going back to work and there's going to be stuff happening. We're going to be going somewhere. There's going to be actual like things, new situations to think about, which we were
Yeah.
a little bit in the suspended animation where things were kind of happening around us, but not necessarily always to us. I mean, other than like the bird watching and shit. I mean, I became quite the bird watcher.
Me
And
too. My God.
nature
Gosh, yesterday I watched like I went for a hike with Paul on Mount Burdell and it like I was literally we're on the top of the mountain. I'm like all like high from the heat and the
oh my
hike.
God, it was so hot.
And I look over and these beautiful red thistles and like right next to my head, this hummingbird is like right next to my head, like getting nectar
Oh, that's so cool.
from the flower. And I was like, holy shit, I'm in like a live movie of hummingbird life right
Oh
now.
yeah. I mean, we're
Like
like
National
we always say
Geographic kind of shit.
yeah, we always say we're in Wild Kingdom and we've been watching this deer family. We've got this crow that we think is a total jerk. You know the crow. You know him.
Oh yeah, I saw him like
Yeah.
murder a
Yeah,
mouse.
he's horrible, and he tries to harass these little deer, and he's a shit, we hate him, and so we've
Yeah,
got, like,
he's
the
a
villain,
fucker.
we've got our little Bambis, and we've got, the little squirrel who goes, and we have a little baby possum, like, it's just so crazy, we're just watching
Yeah,
animals, but yeah, but going back to work, like, you can use that for your creativity, you can use those interactions and the frustrations and the new experiences and whatever you're learning, like just take that with you to, kind of feed into your creative practice that you can have when you get home or on the weekend. It's like, like it's up to you to create balance in your life. Like we had it handed, well, we had the creativity side if we wanted it handed to us on a silver
Yeah.
platter. But like I have to say that most of my writers actually didn't get jack shit done. Like
Yeah.
because it's such a, uncertain time, because it's so difficult, because there's so many, like, there's entertainment and there's uncertainty and there's the dealing with your families.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't get stuff done that they thought they would. So you have that disappointment too, which I think we have to be kind to ourselves and be like, okay, well, I didn't get that done, but it, my creativity is not going to end because I'm going back to work tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like I can still keep balancing those things or learn how to make a new balance.
Yeah. I just found that because I had more time, I could actually I could actually do knitting, crochet, painting. I could do all of it. Like I could access all of it in every day. Whereas I often find when I'm in like a routine work
Mm-hmm.
life that I'm I'll do a very little bit on one thing that I'm working on. Whereas I felt
Right.
like it's a little bit ADD with,
Mm-hmm.
the stuff I was working on now. You
Right.
know,
Right.
I
Right.
felt
Right. Yeah.
I'd be
No,
like,
I know. It's
"Ooh,
like
I wanna play
running
my guitar.
around.
Ooh, I wanna read my new book. Ooh, I
Right.
wanna I wanna do a painting," and, like, I was, like, constantly.
Well, yeah, because you feel like you have to make a choice between your various little projects because you think you only have X amount of time. But really, I
Right.
think if we learn to stop rushing, we can be like, hey, I don't need, just because I only have X amount of time to sit down, I don't need to finish that painting this second. I can bring it out several times. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes we feel that we want to finish a task, like, oh, if I don't knit a start, like, I think knitting probably gives you the patience because I don't have patience. I always want to like finish something when I sit down to it,
Yeah.
but we need to remind ourselves that, like, just like you go to work and you don't have to finish what you were doing today, you can finish it tomorrow probably. Also your creative tasks, like you can leave them to, work on them some more. Just like my writing, I don't need to finish that chapter. It's not, nobody's going to die if I don't finish the chapter,
Right.
today. So it's, it's something where I think we just all need to learn patience, because I think that because of all the measures we're putting in place, like in the new workplace, we're all feeling our way around here. I mean, things are definitely going to slow down. We're going to have some fits and starts. We're going to have some mistakes made. We're going to have some people who are going to get pissed or upset or scared. And I think we need to really check in and respect the people also around us. Because, I mean, I know that a lot of people who are going back to work are dying to go back to work. And then a lot of people who are going back to work are like, well, I need to go back to work financially, but like I'm scared and I don't want to. So you need to be sensitive to, the differences between people. I mean, even though we
Yeah.
went through this whole thing together in a way, I think that our experiences of it were very, very different.
Very different. I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you.
Because,
I
like, I
think
have
there's
friends
been.
who are single and, they don't have family. They don't have, and they are dying to go back to the office because they're just like, oh my God, I'm
That's
so
there's
lonely. I'm
true.
so bored. I'm so this and that. And then you have people who, aren't that way. Or even people, I mean, I know people who are just like, hey, I do great work at home. The only thing I need to learn to do is to be less, workaholic-y when I'm at home. But other than that, I love being at home and doing my work there. So it just really depends. Like you have to, realize that some people are going to be thrilled to be back. Some people are going to be like, oh hell no. you know it's kind of an interesting factor. you know
Yeah, it is. I agree with you that it kind of affects everyone in a different way.
yeah,
Uh, and you kind of have to be you know, evaluatory about that. You got to
yeah,
figure out what your deal is and where you fit in. And yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to kind of create, I've kind of found that I don't like getting up super early. It's
mhm,
assaulting to me. I
yeah,
really hate it.
mhm,
Um, I would rather, like, I'm thinking maybe since we're going to be incorporating Saturdays so we can accommodate patients.
oh,
We're going to be doing, but staggering. Apparently, we're going to be staggering. We're going to be, we're going to be creatively making our schedule. And I was thinking, like, I really like to have like maybe mornings to myself where I can
yeah,
get up, do my reading, whatever I'm working on. I can maybe do a hike. I like,
Yeah,
and
so
then
you
I
don't
can go
find anything
in.
longer. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that would be a better, so I was thinking maybe I can carve out a schedule like that for myself.
I like that. Well, I like that you said that too, because I was going to say that people should take this opportunity to, since we are probably going to be working staggered. Yeah. What kind of schedule works best for you? Like, what's your morning routine? Does it work best for you to go to work early and then be done? Or does it work best to kind of ease your way into the day? And,
Yeah.
and I think that people also need to really be careful with like the transitions in their day. So, like, when you're transitioning from waking up in the morning to going to work, like, do your little morning ritual, be kind to yourself, do your little thing that makes you feel like this is my certainty anchor. I'm having my coffee that I like. I'm being kind to myself. I'm reading a couple pages. I'm meditating for 5 minutes. And then I'm easing my way into work. And then when I come home, let me take off my work clothes. Let me disinfect myself and get into my cozy, creative stuff so that I can transition into that home mode or that out mode or whatever, the creative mode. Like, I think the transitions are going to be super important. Like, we're not going to be able to be doing that thing where we're like jump, jump, jump from thing to
Yeah.
thing. Like, we
And
can't.
I'm actually happy about that. I have no interest in that, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. Like, I'm more interested in, like I said, being a little bit more selfish about where I spend my time. I really don't want to be spending time doing things that don't matter to me as
Right.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And,
absolutely.
a lot of that includes um, just excessive socializing, just like there's just a lot of things, carpooling,
Yeah.
which
Oh
I
my
will
God.
have to do when my daughter goes back to school, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to start future tripping about the fall.
No, but also, since you know that the carpooling thing like makes you kind of crazy, there are ways to work around that. Like, I think that there are ways to negotiate, a way of, like, for example, let's say you don't want to ever drive, but you need somebody to carpool. Why not be like, hey, I'll have dinner ready that I can hand off to you guys if you drive her every day and I never have to drive. Like, that could be totally worth it. You know
Yeah.
what I like? There are ways of making that happen, or being like, hey, I'll deal with the weekend driving or whatever it is, but I really can never do this. But sometimes we just think that people expect extra from us. But like, I know with the carpool thing, I used to just freak out about it. And then I realized that people actually wanted their kids to have somebody in the car with them, going to school or whatever. So they're thrilled to pick up your kid every time with nothing in exchange sometimes. If it's not too far out of the way,
Yeah.
they're like, it makes my kid happy. So we sit there and we like kind of give these extra meanings or extra requirements to things, where we're like, oh my God, now I'm going to have to do this. Now I'm going to have to do that. Well, sometimes maybe you don't have to do it. Maybe that's not a requirement in our life after this. So I think that's kind of
Yeah.
an interesting thing. And then I
Yeah.
think, yeah,
I think it all works itself out. But this
yeah.
has been kind of a crash course in like resetting your priorities
Oh
and
yeah. Yeah.
what matters to you. And I think it's actually a blessing. I feel like it's a blessing in that regard, not undermining or taking away anything from the fact that lots of people have had huge suffering from it. That's not at all what I mean.
Hmm.
Um, that's without saying,
Hmm.
but just
No, those of us who are lucky not to have, super effects to people we know, or, all of that, or who didn't completely lose their livelihoods. I mean, it's been a little bit of a luxurious time. I mean, I agree. It's hard to, and it's really hard not to feel guilty about that, right? Because we know.
yeah, I
How.
mean, I haven't had, because I haven't been able to afford it. I mean, financially, I haven't had a vacation or downtime or time off in years. It's been years since I've had any kind of downtime or vacation. And so there's just been like, and we live in one of the most beautiful places
Yeah.
on the planet. Like, for me to go out every day and hike these trails,
Hmm.
miles and miles and miles of open space in Marin, truly has felt like a vacation to me, and has just been such a, like, I needed it more than I'll ever know.
Right. Yeah. No. And I think that really what's going to be the next step for you and for everybody else is holding on to that feeling. Like if we were, seriously, like how do you hold on to it? And I think that, how happy hiking makes you. Well, if you manage to go hiking before or after work, that's going to be, one of the things that's going to be really
Yeah.
important to maintaining, the benefits that you got from being able to have this break and for having, this self understanding and this, clarity that I think we've all kind of gotten. And we need to be patient with ourselves because it's still full of uncertainty.
Right.
We don't know, there might be a relapse, there might be this, there might be that. We don't know if the kids are going back to school, all of that. We don't know what the economy is going to look like. There's so much up in the air, but I think that
Right.
for us to take it slow and to kind of, give ourselves the gift of, time and patience and, focus on our well-being, avoiding the burnout and, just getting ready for the emotions that are probably going to pop up. Like, I think there's probably going to be, just as we had emotions kind of circling when we first went into the quarantine, I think that with the opening up, there's going to be all kinds of emotions
I
popping up
think
as
that
well.
I think actually that might even be more assaulting
Yeah. I wouldn't
than
be
the
surprised.
shutdown,
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
because when we shut down, you can kind of go into your like whatever your avoidance patterns are,
Yeah.
however you cope. If it's drinking every day
Drinking. Yeah.
or sleeping or whatever it is, like it. When we open up, people are going to have to be more engaged.
Yeah.
So it's a
And more
win for
cautious
both.
and like kind of watch what's going on so that you don't catch yourself when it's too late, like burning up or burning out. So typically, speaking of burning up or burning out, fucking Zoom, our meeting is about to end. But everyone, we're sorry that the meeting's ending. I'm sure you're so sad. If you're going back to work, be kind to yourself. And in the meantime, cheers. And we will
Cheers.
see you next time. Woo,
Bye.
woo. Bye. Bye, guys.